grab a hold of them.
Probably. Dan, have you already logged?
Yes.
Yes, you do. Fear not, our red compatriots.
That's a long run back.
But you've done it.
I have.
But it took 10 hours to do it, right? Awesome. Yes, ma'am. I'm going to get started. If I needed to answer a question, I just wanted to go.
I just said you have a list.
Oh, I have a list. Okay. If you would like to...
Yeah, my name is Jake Beaver, post commander here at Knoxville, 3519. Welcome to Knoxville. What you guys are doing is actually pretty awesome. The members talked about it a little bit here and there. We don't really fully know, but the way you guys have started, what, 2-3 months ago?
66 days ago.
And you got how many more days to go?
54.
Tomorrow we hit our halfway point, 23 miles in.
Well,
Still have 3,000 more miles to go.
Yeah.
pretty awesome deal. I would be there if I could run. I know the members here would be there if they could run, but we're all not runners. So, welcome to Knoxville. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
I know we have someone sing the national anthem, but I would like, what's your name here?
Amanda Flattery.
Amanda, thank you so much. I always like to start out with prayer first. We can encompass the whole ceremony with prayer. So, sir, if you would like to lead us in
So I didn't forget anything.
oh, well, however you wanted to do it. Thank you.
Heavenly Father, we ask your blessing tonight for this memorial and celebration of the lives of those who made the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms that we enjoy. As we come together as comrades in arms, remind us that the sorrow we feel at the loss of our brothers and sisters is minute compared to the joy they have now with you. Keep us ever mindful of the phrase that freedom is not free is not a slogan on a t-shirt, but a reality in this troubled world. We humbly ask that you would bless this food to strengthen our bodies and allow us to go forth and do what you would have us do. Heavenly Father, please be with those who are in harm's way tonight serving throughout the world, and please forgive our shortcomings and grant us grace. Amen.
Amen. And if you'll just stay standing as we have our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. Awesome. Colonel and I have talked about this, but I'm going to say a few words first, and then I'm going to throw it to you. Does that work?
That'll be fine.
Thank you. Just honored that you're here, and those are here in our small group. Sometimes we have nobody at the end of our day, so it's always nice to have somebody who's with us and is understanding what we're doing and appreciating what our mission is. do it.
No,
I
I
want those on my head. You know, when you put something up for a while, it still feels like it's there.
Just housekeeping.
Oh, yeah, I always forget that. Please have your phones on silent. And I'm the worst offender of
Yeah, he
this,
is.
honestly. So if you put your phones on silent, because what we're going to do in a little while is we're going to reverently read some names, and we want to make sure that that moment is not broken, by inadvertent noise. But my name is George Lutz. I'm the founder of an organization called Honor and Remember. And this is actually our 10th anniversary. We were founded in 2008. And we were founded really for one purpose, to bring national remembrance, public remembrance, to our fallen military and their families. All generations, all branches of service, and really all causes of death. And so that was our sole and primary reason for being established, to bring public recognition. And so we understand that there are a lot of veterans out in the community. There are a lot of active duty. There are a lot of those who are connected to the military in some way or other by their relatives in one form or fashion. But if you bundle all of those up together, it probably is less than 10% of those who occupy our country. So it's a very, 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 very small percentage who serve or understand serving, and let alone what sacrifice means and what the loss of a military service member means. And so our mission became really more civilian-oriented than it was military-oriented, because the military don't need extra reminders of the loss of their brothers and sisters. They get it. Memorial Day means something. So there were plenty of organizations out there doing that, and talking, within the populations of themselves and helping and nurturing. RWV is one of those. They do a great job in enriching the community and gathering veterans together and giving them purpose and direction and camaraderie. And so we thought we need to speak to a population that not a lot of people are speaking to. And so we focus on the outward. And we did that mainly with the creation of a symbol that we hoped would become our national symbol of remembrance. And that is the Honor and Remember flag, one of the flags that we carry, on this run across America. And so it was established to be a public symbol, a public reminder, a public tangible symbol of appreciation. Dan's holding it up back there.
There we go.
You probably, if you
I
haven't
was going to
seen
say,
it.
Jody's going to stand and show her t-shirt. There you go.
If you
Great,
haven't
Mike.
seen it,
Thanks a lot.
it has a very specific purpose, and it's not for our military necessarily. It's more or less for all of us to fly and to display, to say thank you and make a statement of, hey, I recognize men and women are dying and are lost, but I want to send a message to their families. And so that is, in essence, why the flag exists. And so our mission has been to bring healing to the Gold Star families by recognition of their loss, by all of us having a tangible way to say to them, hey, you know what, I get it. And here's how you know I get it. Because really, most all of us, if we even know a Gold Star family, it's not very many of them. We may know one, there may be a loss of a brother, brother in arms, maybe even a neighbor, but many of us, if we know one, okay, that's probably a lot. There are tens of thousands of families out there who have lost loved ones in military service, and not just directly parents and even spouses, but aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters, and it just goes on and on and on. I think there's some statistic that there's at least 14 family relations to every one individual who loses their lives. So you spread that out, and there's thousands of people that are affected in grieving for the loss of whoever that one person is. And so we want to make sure that we are sending that message, because you don't know who drives up and down your street. There's not a lot of people here, but usually if I ask if there anybody has lost a relative of some sort in the military, I'm always surprised at how many people stand up. And the people around them didn't even know. I was in a Legion in Indiana not too long ago, and I asked that question, and a gentleman stood up who had been a member of the Legion forever, and he had lost someone very dear to him, and nobody even knew. And it was like, a lot of families just carry it, but they don't talk about it. And so the one thing that they want, that they don't even ask about, is remembrance. They don't want their loved one to be forgotten. And I liken it to, a woman, let's say a mother who lost her son, in a grocery line, and it happens to be the birthday of her son, right? And so she's in line in the grocery, and everything around her may be reminding her of that, but she's not saying anything to anybody. She's just holding that grief in. But inside, she's screaming. I call it screaming inside, because inside she wants to say, it's my boy's birthday, and he died for you. He sacrificed his life. He enlisted and sacrificed his life for you. Looking at the checkout person, right? But can't say it because it's too painful to say. But if we were able to send a message to her in one form or another that just gave her that feeling of, you know what, they get it, they understand, they care. This is why the symbol was created, to be able to show those around that have experienced that without saying a word. It's really speaking a message louder than thunder without saying anything. So we've been working to establish the honor number flag for the last 10 years. It is now recognized officially by legislation as the state symbol of remembrance in 24 states. And that was not our organization in terms of we're not lobbyists or anything. This is grassroots, people in the state going, this is important, we need to do this, and they've done it on their own, with some support. Iowa's not one of those states at this point, so we're working on that. But that's not really why we're here. The reason I say that is because as a mission of our organization is to make sure that no service member is forgotten and that their family realizes that we will never forget them individually by name. And so fast forward to why we're here, and it's exactly within our mission, because what we're doing is not just saying globally we want to remember all these tens of thousands of Gold Star families, but we are actually compiled a list of every name that we could possibly find, and working with the DOD and other branches of organizations in compiling what we believe is the largest database of fallen service members in the world, of American service members in the world, even larger than the DOD. Because the DOD is limited in what they actually portray or relate as a casualty. And not only that, but we went beyond just saying, okay, well, we don't just want battle casualties. We want everyone who died while serving, regardless of how they died, whether it be in training, whether it be an accident, whether it be a service-related incident, or even if they left the service and they carried with them hidden wounds of post-traumatic stress and may have even taken their own life. We even have included those loved ones because we wanted to be all-inclusive. We wanted to make sure that everyone, see, pain is a very common thing in terms of loss. So if I lose my son, in battle from an IED, or I lost my son because he happened to be in a helicopter on the way back to base, at Fort Benning, just, getting back to work, that loss isn't any different. If my son decided he was going to take his own life because of what he saw or what he experienced, that pain to me as a parent is not any different. And I've now met hundreds, thousands of families who have lost their loved ones from every circumstance you can imagine. And I have never once had anyone had any impression that the pain of that to those widows or to those parents was any less. And so as an organization, I came to realize that we could encompass military-related deaths and do it honorably. And I always say to anybody who questions that is that, hey, we're going to make mistakes, but if we're going to make mistakes, we're going to make them on the side of honor. And so what does it hurt to bring honor to a parent or to a spouse or to a family member? So this is what we're about. So we thought the greatest way of getting attention to that 90% out there who don't necessarily get it is to create something so big that maybe they'd get enough attention that somebody would notice and go, wow, sacrifice is important, and my freedoms are due to the fact of someone who, willingly and selflessly, gave it themselves. And maybe, we might not turn the light bulb on for everybody. Maybe we could bring a little more awareness. And so that really became our mission, to take this large database of names, not statistics, and put them on some kind of a platform by which America would realize how many important people gave their lives, but also the families would know that we haven't forgotten their loved one. And we'd be able to bring them some extra incremental form of comfort or healing. So we took this number, 20,000, because people are always asking me, how did you get this number, 20,000? There's only 7,000 that died in Iraq and Afghanistan in the war on terror. And I already told you what all that number compiles to be, and that's where that number comes from. What did we do with that number? Because we weren't just going to run a mile for every hero, for instance, because we'd be running a long, long time. So what we did was we looked at commonalities, and we realized that the best way of breaking down this trail of honor was to look at dates of death. So we separated out every one of those 20,000 dates of death, and we found that uniquely, whether it was one or several, that there were about 5,000 dates of death that comprise this 20,000 number. And we thought that, okay, well, 5,000 is a more reasonable number that we could work with and organize. And so we took those 5,000 and we thought, okay, well, we're going to run a mile for every day that someone died in this country. So when we talk about miles or markers, we're actually talking about dates of death. So that's something I want you to remember as I say how many miles we did or where we. They're all unique dates of death. They're not just miles. And so we started planning this trip 2.5 years ago. And at that point, we had 5,000 dates of death. And we thought, okay, well, we're going to be starting this in 2018. And we can't just stop it by the dates we have now. We have to plan, because there's going to be more casualties. Because I wanted this to be the most comprehensive fallen veteran tribute ever conceived in this country. And by comprehensive, I wanted everybody accounted for, everybody. And so we created this database. So you could go to our website and actually search for a name. And that name would come up with if that name was on there, would come up with a map that told you where in the country we were going to honor that person and what time and on what road. I mean, it was that sophisticated. And so we took these 5,000 and we had to plan for 2 more years. And so we added 1,000 blank miles, blank dates of death at the end, because we thought certainly in 2 years, 1,000 would be a, adequate number. And, I've been saying this for every day for a while, is that we're within 50 miles of Arlington Cemetery, which is our end point right now. We've used up all those 1,000 miles. But I think we've even used up those 50 since the time I've been talking about it. So we're going to have to figure out a way of adding more stops, as we get closer to Arlington, unfortunately. But we're going to stop on August the 5th of this year with an amazing ceremony in Arlington Cemetery, where I hope we're going to read the name of the very last person that died up until that moment. Comprehensive. So I mentioned a search engine. You could go and search for your buddy, your neighbor, your community, someone in your community, or your loved one. And if they're not there on that search engine, because of many of the reasons that we might not have their information because of the DOD doesn't have it, or you can add them. So somebody can even be added, and this is why I say we have the largest compiled database, because we have families coming and adding them all the time. And every time they add one, it adds, if they're not a date of death already there, it adds another marker. And so you can see that this trail stretches, across our nation. And even though we are running, and I didn't mention this, from the USS Cole, October 12, 2000 is when we started forward. Even when we stop, and we call this, as far as comprehension, we're honoring, Vietnam, Korea, any generation of family member who's with us. When we're honoring at the end of the day like that, we honor them as well by calling their name out loud. So we are just embracing every generation to the point where this is an historic moment. I mean, you guys right here are in a time and a place that it's not going to happen again. The organization of this was so immense and so massive and so crazy and so emotionally draining that every minute of every day for us right now, is just applaud to we got to get through this. We got to get through this. And it's not going to happen again. I mean, not in my lifetime. Unless someone has got the passion to pull it all together and recreate this, it's going to be pretty difficult. So I would say at this moment in time, you're in a place that will never happen again. And I hope that makes an impression. I hope that you remember that in this moment. We may do some modifications of some runs like this, but never to this degree, to this moment. And so we took these numbers, we plotted them along through 19 states, over 121 days, over 5 months. And every day, for every mile, I've never seen anything like this ever in the history of our country. Every mile, we've identified heroes that are going to be honored. And when we have a team of runners, and thank you guys for being a full team today, it meant a lot to us. And it took away some of the burden from our core team. But when we have a full team, we are doing this. This is how every mile goes. We have a full set of flags that we run with, full 3x5 flags. We run with the American flag, obviously because we're in America and we're running for America. We're carrying the state flag of the state we're running in because we are a guest of that state, and we are also honoring for those states' heroes. We carry a flag that we created. Very often we are protected and escorted by our police as we're going through the state, and our fire trucks come out. And the other night we were hosted in Iowa, in Lewis, Iowa, at a fire station for the evening, which was wonderful. And explain what that means and why it's so important. And if we're down to only one flag, we carry the Honor and Remember flag because it represents every fallen service member in the history of our country. And it's the reason why we run. to honor and remember. And what we do mile after mile. So we're carrying those 4 full-size flags. Plus we're carrying the marker with the names of those that we're going to be reading for that date of death. It could be 1, could be 50. It's all based on date of death. And then we carry a set of flags for each one of those names that's going to be read. An American flag and an honorable member flag. So we run to a designated place. Sometimes the marker's already there. Sometimes we designate it by distance, depending on how many runners we have and the weather conditions and other factors. We run up to that determined place. We come to attention. The first thing we do is we ask if there are any Gold Star family members present, because often a family will be there and that is their marker. We had a family today that came in from Chicago to be at that moment to hear their son's name called for 45 seconds. Came all the way from Chicago. And that has happened every day over and over. Yesterday we had 4 families and they came from all over the place. I don't even remember how far. I think we had 1 from the state. We come to attention, we ask if there's any Gold Star families present. And then we read our placard. This hero marker is dedicated to all those service members who lost their lives on this particular day, whatever day that was. Remember, we're consecutive days of death, starting with 2000. We are now reading June, I think, of 2009. This is where we're up to. July of 2009 is where we're up to right now. We started in 2000. We read that date, and then we read the names. Like I said, it could be 1 or it could be 50. On 9/11, it was 57. Once we read those names, or as we're reading them, depending on how much help we have at the marker, we place a set of flags in the ground for every single name we read in honor of them. And sometimes when the ground is soft enough, we can actually put it in the ground, but we touch the ground with every one. And then when we're done with that series, we all come back to attention and we hand salute those that we just honored. We have a live feed going on, so it's not only us that's reverently and respectfully doing this mile after mile, but we're being watched from anywhere in the world. We have a live feed going on. Because that is our statement. We don't get a lot of press. We're not getting a lot of awareness out there from just general media. So we're broadcasting this and making sure that people know we're broadcasting it so that families can watch, friends can watch, commerce can watch. And then we pick up the placard and the set of flags for the next marker, and off we go to the next mile. And this happens marker after marker, hour after hour, day after day. We pretty much run 10 hours a day, every single day. And we'll have, and this is our 66th day of running. And we probably ran 10 hours today. We started at 7 and
7
7 to 3, so we ran about 8 hours today. And in those 8 hours, we called out the names of 173 fallen service members. 173 fallen service members in 43 days of death. So divide that out. Right? 43 days of death was all we ran for today. And so that accumulated, into that number of fallen service members. So this is what our mission is to take those 20,000, and I know it's over 20,000 now because we've added, and we're adding constantly, and we are going to make sure that every single one of those names is read out loud. I don't think that's ever been done in the history of our country with any group anywhere. And every time we do it, and when we do it tonight, this may be the most names ever read out loud, of fallen service members, in your house. I don't know that, but it may be. Especially not those that are even from your state. There may be only a couple. But we're honoring the dates of death between those 43 dates. So this is our mission. This is why we're here. We have a core team, that are traveling all 5 months. This has been a 5-month journey. We still have, as I said, 55 more days to go. And so raise your hand. There's not a lot of us in the room anyway. If you're a part of the core team, raise your hand. You're traveling. So this is our core team. Those that have been supporting us, raise your hand. Have been running. You guys can't deny you ran, a dozen miles today at least, right? And read those names, and you were part of our family now. So,
Family.
and so our mission all the way to Arlington. And so basically that's what we're doing. So every night at the end of the day, and I'm not going to do this, I'm going to wait till the Colonel speaks, because I wanted to kind of preface, sir, what we're doing and kind of give you more of a picture of kind of what this journey was, whether it influences, what you have to say. But one of the things we do every single night, and sometimes we're in an RV park all by ourselves or in a hotel parking lot or in a room full of people, it doesn't matter. What we need to do is make sure that we not only reverently and respectfully read their names during the day, because there's only a few of us there listening. We don't know who's on our live feed. Could be nobody. Sometimes we don't have a signal and the feed is dead. So we don't know what's going on out there in the real world unless somebody sends us a message. We like to reread those names because we know that those that are here with us are hearing them. And they know that we are saying them for the families. And really, what you're doing by being here with us is standing for those families who are not with us. And actually are saying, you know what? I will hear the name of your loved one. And I will stand for him or her. And that's the importance of us doing this. Now we have 173 names that we're going to read tonight. Sometimes we've read nearly 400 in that same period of time. And it's going to take a few minutes. We're not going to read these in 2 minutes. But I'm going to ask the Colonel to come up and say a few words. And I appreciate you being here, sir, and your bride. And then after that, our crew will come up and read the names, and then we'll close this portion of our ceremony, and then we're going to eat. Does that work for you guys? All right, Colonel, I'm going to get water and put it up in your hand. Yeah.
Well, it is an honor to be here tonight to speak to you, and thanks to the VFW here for hosting this. And as we heard, it's quite a task what you're trying to do. 6,000 miles across this country, and then stopping every hour to individually recognize the sacrifice and service of members of the military. From the time the USS Cole, I looked at it today, that was October 12th, 2000. They said it hit at 12:15 p.m. that day. 17 service members died on that ship as the terrorists were able to get close enough to blow a massive hole inside it. And since then, we've really been at war. Tonight we honor the brave men and women who have given so much to this country. And paid the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms we enjoy. It's the least we can do. Abraham Lincoln once said that any nation that does not honor its heroes will not long endure. I just hope that day is not coming. As you can see on Memorial Day now, where it's more about going to the mall than it is, or the pool, than it is to honor our fallen. It's up to the veterans a lot to make sure that this stays, this happens. How many veterans do we have here today? boom. It's up to us because sometimes it's hard for people to understand soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and what they go through, and the camaraderie that they have. You know, I remember when I got back from Afghanistan, I was out in Utah at a funeral, and there was a young sergeant there, a little female, and her unit had deployed to Afghanistan, and she was behind for a little bit. And she got asking me about what Afghanistan was like. So I got talking to her. And of course everybody else is saying how great it is that she gets to stay back. And all she could think about is getting forward as fast as she could to be with those soldiers that were her friends, her comrades. She couldn't stand the thought that they were there and she wasn't. So it is up to us as veterans to make sure that they get honored. It's also up to us as veterans because we have been the ones in the battlefield. We've been the ones that have seen our fallen. We have seen our wounded. And we've held our dying in our arms. It is up to us to tell them the story that they had. Because we need that. We need to know that. The world needs to know their story. And that's what this is really about, is a story. This run that you're on is great. But it's not just about mentioning the names of the fallen in their mind. It's about their story and what they've gone through. This is somewhat personal to me as a combat commander in Afghanistan. And the citizens of this great state and this country put trust in me. They trusted me with their most prized possession, their sons and daughters, that I would do everything I could to make sure they came back from that deployment. You know, it is hard. It is hard to think about that. It is always wonder if did you train them enough? Did you train them hard enough? Did you get them prepared enough? I'll never forget the first week we were in Afghanistan. I'm at Bagram and there's troops, we have troops all around Afghanistan, and we get the radio call that the troops out in Kandahar were at a site overnight and they were under attack. And you think, there's not a lot I can do from Bagram. Get them air support. That's about it. And you're thinking, you're waiting all night to hear the report. Luckily, we heard the report and everybody was okay. And we killed a few of the sons of bitches that were trying to do it. But it's all about those people. Again, tonight, I would like to talk to you just a little bit about mile marker 53. Mile marker 53, you guys read the name of James C. Carney III. He was one of my soldiers. He joined the Iowa Army National Guard when he was 17 years old because he had a family tradition of the military, and he loved it. He was a tall boy, played basketball for Nishna Valley High School, and loved to go hunting in the fields around his home. He loved the duty that he had. He would do whatever. But his job was to be in the turret of an up-armored Humvee manning the 50 cal machine gun. That's what he did. And he always wanted to be in the lead Humvee, which was the most dangerous place you could be. But he always wanted to be there. And then on November 1st, 2004, we were returning from a mission along the Pakistan border. And we came up through a pass. And in that pass, we got hit by a well-planned ambush. And bullets started raining down on us from above, and from front and back. And James Carney was hit. instantly died in that Humvee. Now that time, the soldiers in that front Humvee saw their buddy drop and immediately did what they had to do for that action drill to get out of that kill zone. They hit the gas. And I will tell you today, if they had not hit the gas at that exact moment in time, I would not be standing before you today giving you this talk. Because the RPG went right between their vehicle and mine. If that RPG had knocked out that lead vehicle, we were stuck in the kill zone. And it had been like fish shooting ducks on a pond. We got out of there. During the fight, though, as in any ambush, they tried to knock out the lead vehicle and the rear vehicle. Our rear vehicle took an RPG. And luckily, the Lord was with us that day, because the RPG was a dud. But it wasn't that much of a dud, because the rod on the RPG went through the back of the vehicle, through a can of mortar rounds, and through the Kevlar backing of the seat and right into the arm of Sergeant Lukes, and pinned him to the seat. And also took out the guy in the turret with shrapnel, wounded him. Sergeant Lukes lost his arm, but he survived. As we got to our point to regroup, I will never forget. Never forget. As I got out of the Humvee and I saw my medic running past me, Sergeant Ragland. And I said, "How is Carney?" And he said, "He's dead, sir." Those words chilled me to the bone as he ran back to help the other people. And then, as we left that kill zone, or left that area, I decided as the commander I needed to get in the lead vehicle with those soldiers, because their friend was lying dead next to them. And I thought they needed assurance that everything was going to be okay. And as we drove away, I will never forget looking over at James Carter and seeing the red bold patch, my unit patch, on his shoulder, soaked in blood. That image is forever engraved in my mind. That day. And I will always, that image will always remind me of the cost of war. These are people who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Now it's kind of fitting that James Carney was brought home. And he was brought back to Red Oak Island for the funeral. You know anything about Red Oak Island? It has had a long history of war. And it's paid an awful price for this. In World War II, when World War II started, the 168 Infantry was re-established and re-brought up. And they went to Red Oak Island. And they tried to bring soldiers, get soldiers. And they went there to get them. And those young men in Red Oak Island, when they came to ask, they didn't say no. They didn't say, not me. They didn't say, why me? They lowered their plow. They closed their books. They left their stores and factories. And they said, where do you need me? And when do you need me there? And they enlisted in great numbers. And then they went through some training here and over into Britain, did some training, and then they were one of the first units into North Africa. And soon after that, anybody hear of the Kasserine Pact? Rommel's Panzer Division caught them in the Kasserine Pass, surrounded them, They were outnumbered, they were outgunned, and on that day, the 17th of February, 1942, 3, Red Oak, Iowa lost a generation of boys. On March 6th, I read there was over 100 telegrams sent to Red Oak, Iowa to tell them of their loss. What a tragedy. It's only fitting then that the next soldier who gave his life for this country was brought back since World War II, was brought back to Red Oak, Iowa. He laid to rest. They had a funeral in the St. Mary's Catholic Church. There, they, as you can imagine, big funeral. Barely hold it, standing room only in the church. But that wasn't the end of it. The end of it was that every store was closed. Every school kid lined the streets. Every factory was shut down. And as he drove that flag-draped coffin to the cemetery out in the country, they were all there to support it. It was neat to see the farmers in the field. It was combine, and they stopped. And they walked to the bench row to honor. The truckers stopped and got out of their trucks to honor. Now this story could be told about many towns across Iowa who lost loved ones. The same exact story. But that's what Americans do. And that's why we have to honor our fallen. Now I can tell you, I don't know what the future holds for this country. I'll tell you this, there is evil out there. There is evil in this world that wants to destroy us, who wants to bring down this country that stands for freedom. And it's the only way to describe it. They're pure evil. No matter how much we want this conflict to be over, and how tired we are of sending our brave warriors into battle, this conflict is far from over. The enemy has not left the battlefield. So we must continue until it is destroyed. You do not manage evil. You do not contain evil. You do not degrade evil. You destroy evil. And that's what we must do. So, as we celebrate this run across America for our fall, just know that there will be more. Now, when you get to Arlington, it is not the end. We support our troops as a constant endeavor. And we should never forget those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for freedom in this country. May God bless you in this endeavor that you're on. It is a great and noble thing to do. May God bless this country and for all those who serve this shining city on the hill. I thank you, and God bless you all.
We're going to take the moment now to, you want to come up? No. To Bill's name from today's. We're gonna.
She not ready.
You guys want to do some reading? It's our tradition to have our runners do the reading since they ran the miles. And not everyone's obligated to obviously read. It's emotional. And tonight we have a good group of readers. Thank you. So I just ask that as these names are being read, that, as I said earlier, you're standing in for those families that aren't here. Now, what was his rank, Carney's rank?
Then named Sergeant Kostakis.
Sergeant Carney. As you would when we would have read his name that day. You know, you saw someone who were there standing for his family. You know, each one of these individuals have a story. They have a family, and they're not here with us, but we are here for them. And so, without any more talking,
So the dates we ran for today were July 2nd through August 14th of 2009. Specialist Levi Clark, United States Army. Specialist Nico Raphael McCraw, United States Army. Lance Corporal Charles S. Sharp, United States Marine Corps. Private First Class Isidro Ismael Gundinez, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Julio Cesar Galvin, United States Marine Corps. Specialist Brandon Charles Lee Butner, United States Army. Private First Class Justin A. Casillas, United States Army. Private First Class Aaron E. Farbrun, United States Army. Tech Sergeant Richard James Karen, United States Air Force. Master Sergeant Jermode Darnell Farr, United States Air Force. Command Master Sergeant Robert Grove Shepard, United States Air Force. Seaman Apprentice Michael James Burke Lally, United States Navy. Private Spencer Stewart Coughlin, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Larry Wayne Reed, United States Army. Private First Class John Jacob Burton, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Trevor Allen DeWar, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Daniel Cole Guringer, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer First Class Jose Angel Diaz, United States Navy. Private First Class Nicholas H. J. Gideon, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Michael Robert Sansbarger, United States Army. Specialist Isaac Lee Johnson Jr., United States Army.
Specialist Chester W. Osborne, United States Army. Captain Mark A. Gardner, United States Army. Specialist Isaac L. Johnson, United States Army. Sergeant Brock H. Chaders, United States Army National Guard. Second Lieutenant Derwin I. Williams, United States Army National Guard. Lance Corporal Andrew Orland, myself, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer, Second Class Tony Michael Randall, United States Navy. Specialist Christopher M. Albert, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Ryan Patman Means, United States Army. Master Sergeant Bradley Scott Bryan, United States Army. Senior Master Sergeant John Paul M.R., Second, United States Air Force. Private Lucas M. Bragg, United States Army. First Class Brian Dwight Ryerson, United States Army. Sergeant John Eric Hayes, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Michael C. Roy, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Roger Gary Michael Hager, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Roger G. Hager, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer, First Class Christopher Gaithers, United States Navy.
And Darren Ethan Tate, United States Navy. Specialist Gregory James Missman, United States Army. Specialist Simon DeSwan Saunders, United States Army. Corporal Mark Allen Eastman, United States Army. Specialist Kevin John Isles, United States Army. Specialist Joshua Ray Ferris, United States Army. Master Sergeant Mona Lynn Howard, United States Air Force. Air Force. Petty Officer 3 Levi Seth Jenkins, United States Navy. Sergeant First Class Michael Lee Larkin, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Donald Wynn Campbell, United States Army. Corporal Matthew Ryan Lebeck, United States Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant Justin L. Garza, United States Army. Captain Mark Anthony Zamponga, United States Air Force. Lance Corporal Justin Douglas Linscott, United States Marine Corps. Private Nicholas Edward Warner, United States Marine Corps. Master Sergeant Jerome David Hatfield, United States Marine Corps.
Lance Corporal Pedro Antonio Barbosa Flores, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Stephen Brent Vaughn, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Rosario Carmen Leticia Ayala, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Eric James Lindstrom, United States Army. Senior Airman Cyril Burton Tynes, United States Air Force. Chief Warrant Officer 2 Rodney A. Jarvis, United States Army. Sergeant Abraham M. Cashmeter, United States Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant David Shane Spicer, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Michael Wayne Heed, Jr., United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Major Ken Randolph Lamont, Jr., United States Army. Sergeant First Class Jason John Fabrici, United States Army. Private First Class Corey Joe Sample, United States Army. Specialist Carlos E. Wilcox IV, United States Army. Specialist James D. Wertish, United States Army. Specialist Daniel P. Drefnick, United States Army. Master Sergeant Jr. Lester Sylvester White, United States Marine Corps. Warrant Officer 5 William F. Hinchman, United States Army. Private First Class Lawrence Guy Gowell II, United States Army. Corporal Benjamin Stephen Kopp, United States Army. Sergeant Brian Richard Schlack, United States Army. Captain Mark Russell McDowell, United States Air Force. Captain Thomas Joseph Grammett, United States Air Force. Captain Thomas J. Kane Grammett, United States Air Force. Petty Officer 2 Melissa Jane Thornton, United States Navy. Sergeant Annabelle Beltran Jr., United States Army. Lance Corporal Brandon T. Lara, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Jose Aiden Esquivel, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer 1 Nancy Lynn Arnold, United States Navy. Specialist Ariel L. Valdez, United States Army. Specialist Anthony Marquis Lightfoot, United States Army. Private First Class Dennis Joseph Pratt, United States Army. Specialist Andrew J. Ruffton, United States Army. Sergeant Gregory Owens Jr., United States Army. Lance Corporal Matthew R. Pritchett, United States Marine Corps.
Senior Recruit Nicholas Anthony Corbett, U.S. Navy. Sergeant Ramon Torres Morales. United States Army National Guard. Joseph Spincala, U.S. Air Force. Sergeant First Class Joseph Spincala, United States Air Force. Army, sorry. Specialist, sorry. Randy L. J. Neff, Jr., U.S. Army. Sergeant Joseph James Reimer, United States Army. Specialist Andrea Michelle Reed, United States Army. Corporal Nicholas George Zaris, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Ryan H. Lane, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Jeremy Scott Lasher, United States Marine Corps. Airman Andrew Scott Carpenter, United States Navy. Specialist Herbert A. Morales Campos, United States Army. Private First Class Mario Gabriel Castro, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Johnny Roosevelt Holt, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Stacy Anthony Ryland, United States Army. Private First Class Donald Wayne Vincent, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer Second Class Carmen Douglas Richardson, United States Navy. Sergeant Donald J. Shepard, United States Army. Petty Officer Second Class Joseph Elmer Thomas, United States Navy. Private First Class Timothy Jordan Rogers, United States Army. Sergeant Brandon Michael Baylor, United States Army. Master Sergeant Daniel Robert Beverly, United States Air Force. Lieutenant Commander Roman Peter Salm III, United States Navy. Captain Michael Scott Spector, United States Navy. Chief Warrant Officer Second Class Douglas Melville Voss III, United States Army. Sergeant Garrett David Smith, United States Army National Guard. Lieutenant Corporal Jonathan Fulton Strode, Lance Corporal Jonathan Fulton Strode, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Gregory Allen Posey, United States Marine Corps. First Lieutenant Joshua Adam Pickard, United States Army. Specialist Alexander Joel Miller, United States Army. Sergeant Jacob Edward Brewer, United States Marine Corps. Private First Class Richard K. Jones, United States Army. Major Joseph Nevin Flanders, United States Army. Specialist Rodolfo L. Burnell Jr., United States Army.
Corporal Jonathan Michael Walls, United States Army. Private First Class Patrick Scott Fitzgibbon, United States Army. Lance Corporal Cole Richard Alexander, United States Marine Corps. Corporal Edmund Carl Vandecastile IV, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer Second Class Bobby Glenn Ugalde, United States Navy. Staff Sergeant Albrazy Latrell Williams, United States Army. Sergeant Major Harry Lewis Parrish Jr., United States Army. Sergeant First Class Severin West Summers III, United States Army National Guard. Captain Ronald George Luce Jr., United States Army National Guard. Captain Ronald, Sergeant First Class Alejandro Granada III, United States Army National Guard. Petty Officer Third Class James Richard Shaw II, United States Navy. Specialist Marshal Jermaine Montelis, United States Army. Private First Class Kiefer P. Wilhelm, United States Army. Specialist Leonardo Erasmo Vieira, United States Army. Senior Chief Petty Officer Dejana Marie Hayes Jones, United States Navy. Staff Sergeant Chase Jeffrey Jones, United States Army. Sergeant Jonathan A. Manea, United States Army. Lance Corporal James David Argentine, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant J. Michael Hoskins, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Travis Thornton Babine, United States Marine Corps. Corporal Rivera Cristian Armando Guzman, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer First Class Reynard Amos Rogers, United States Navy. Staff Sergeant Jonathan Glass, United States Army. Sergeant Jerry Randall Evans Jr., United States Army. Lance Corporal Dennis James Burrow, United States Marine Corps. Captain Matthew Charles Hayes Freeman, United States Marine Corps. Specialist Matthew Kalen Samu Swanson, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Tara Jean Smith, United States Army. Lance Corporal Javier Oliveira, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer Third Class Bradley Adam Staley, United States Navy. Petty Officer Third Class Philip Allen Bailey, United States Navy. First Sergeant Mark Elliott Grant, United States Army. Sergeant Vavezi Semu Jr., United States Army. Sergeant Joseph Hillary Jackson, United States Army.
Corporal Roger Alvin Thomas Akers, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Patrick Wayne Schimmel, United States Marine Corps. Specialist Richard A. Walters Jr., United States Army. Airman First Class Justin Darrell Green, United States Air Force. Lance Corporal Bruce Ernest Farrell, United States Marine Corps. Private First Class Jason Maurice Haddocks, United States Army. Airman Shane Michael Christian, United States Navy. Chief Petty Officer Christopher Ronald Rice, United States Navy. Private Matthew Hayden Huzzy, United States Army. Sergeant Darrell Lee Davis, United States Army. Captain John Tinsley, United States Army. Senior First Class Sergeant First Class Felicia Dolan Hill, United States Army. Specialist Brian L. Mitch, United States Army National Guard. Sergeant William John Kahir, United States Marine Corps Reserve. Specialist Delania Abbott, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Ronald Charles Knowles, United States Army. Lance Corporal Joshua Matthew Bernard, United States Marine Corps.
Before we conclude, I know there's not many people here, but I always, after we read our names, I've said that we really are running for them all, right? Those who gave us our freedoms, those that preserve our freedoms, those will continue to protect our freedoms. And so we've read the names that we ran for, today, and they're in that very short window of time. But there may be someone that the Colonel's already mentioned one, that maybe a relative, maybe a friend, maybe a neighbor, maybe a community member, I don't know. But from any generation in our country, if you would like to say out loud the name of someone, then we give you that chance now. Not any obligation, but because we want to make sure that no one is forgotten and no name is left unsaid, from our hearts. Colonel?
I would like to honor two people from my family. I'm the oldest of 10 children, and retired Army colonel, but not a combat veteran. My youngest brother, Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Edward Hoffman, was killed in combat in action in Iraq in May of 2006. And your group honored him when you passed through Canyon, Texas, I think about day 45 or something like that. But I couldn't be there for that. We were just moving up to Minnesota. And so I came down here to thank you for honoring him, but equally important, all of the other soldiers, Marines, sailors, and airmen and Coast Guard in the war on terror. And also to honor my father, who just passed away last week. He was a retired colonel, and he did not die in action, but he was a veteran of 3 wars and died during the war on terror. He was a private in World War II in the field artillery, lieutenant in heavy artillery in the Korean War, and served in Vietnam. And again, I thank you for all to honor our lost heroes. And from the bottom of my heart, I know that when my little brother Daniel was killed, he had 3 young infantrymen with him when they were ambushed, and that young first lieutenant, young sergeant, and young private. I know how much their families suffer every day. Thank you for remembering me.
Yes, sir.
My brother, Larry Montoni, Marine Corps Sergeant in Vietnam in the 70s. My father, Augustine Montoni Sr., passed away, and he was in World War II, United States Army Air Force. And our son, Justin Robert Marconi, gotta be Justin Robert Marconi, died
Hear me? Go get my sign.
in Iraq 2006. March 6th. And he was in the EOD.
My brother, Rocky Littlewind, took his life October 23rd, 2016. He was a Marine Corps veteran, 2 times in Afghanistan.
My guys might be on the list, but they're all, I won't be there. First we got Specialist Donnie Nichols that died over in Afghanistan while we were overseas. We got Jacob Hutchinson was my medic. Hutchinson was a medic overseas, and he came back and he couldn't handle it, so he committed suicide. Then we got Specialist Ryan Witt, we were overseas together, and he couldn't handle it, came back and committed suicide. Then we got Staff Sergeant Carlos Puente that was working night shift as a police officer in Des Moines, and he was transporting a prisoner back from I think it was Council Bluffs to Des Moines, and there was a terrible accident on I-80.
Yes.
And then we got Lindsey Stupp, Staff Sergeant Lindsey Stupp, that he died at an ATV accident.
First Lieutenant Tyler Martin, Afghanistan, killed in action. Second Lieutenant Todd Lamka, also Afghanistan. And my classmate Tyler Parton, who had left the service, was doing his MBA and got killed over, anyways, while he was overseas on their international program.
Anyone else?
I also have one other one in 2007. A good buddy of mine that I'd grown up with, he was my best friend. And Dane Garcia, Sergeant Dane Garcia, the Black Hawk had gotten shot down the weekend before. He was put on suicide watch. And he had survivor's guilt because he wasn't there. He was supposed to have been there. And he wasn't there. And the Black Hawk got shut down, and every one of his battle buddies were killed. And he ended up taking his life. He was in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. He was my best friend all through high school, all through childhood.
Anyone else? You just have a moment of silence to just reflect on these names that we read tonight and those mentioned and those yet to come. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all. It's the end of our time. I know these guys have been waiting for a long time to feed us.
Thank you.
We, in case you're interested, people ask us about t-shirts and things, we have some stuff in the back. You know, it helps us to, get from one place to another. Takes a lot of resources to give up your life for 5 months and try to make it across the country. So anyway, we have stuff in the back, but enjoy the fellowship and the meal, and thank you guys. We're in your hands.